You are now tuned into the vault. Trust Christian owned, not to control everything. Just want to thank you all for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening to replay. It's always appreciated. Long time listeners, new listeners, always appreciate you all for tuning in live, listening to replay. We definitely do these episodes for our trustees. We have a trustee training program at the vault for people looking to be private and have a continuing education program available to them. The vault provides trustee training. Free feel to email over Christian at trustchristian.com to find out about trustee training, to get going in trustee training, or to even get a consultation. It's Christian at trustchristian.com. We'll reply, someone on our team will reply over. Definitely wanted to do this episode today. This is the Vault, episode 329. Only doing business in your name, downsides. So we really wanted to do this episode today because so many people come to the vault in this situation, and this has come up in consultation throughout the years, and as well, just still to this day, still dealing with this with so many, whether it's trustees or people in general. So today is a great episode. This is not intended to be legal advice. This is this is a conversation that we have in any type of chamber of commerce, public venue, talking about only doing business in your name, downsides. We definitely wanted to talk about that because even today, what really prompted this episode was sitting in front of an investor today. Literally, they're an investor. Literally, they're an entrepreneur. How are you in the business environment and you don't call yourself an entrepreneur? You don't call yourself an investor, and if you do, you're still claiming a part-time job. Ladies and gentlemen, when you enter into the business realm, you have to put on your boss thinking cap. You have to put on your leader, your entrepreneur investor hat. So when we walk into business meetings with people, we're talking about that business and that business. But what happens is so many entrepreneurs are doing business in their name. And because they're doing business in their name, they're thinking like an employee. So we'll give you an example. We're sitting in front of an entrepreneur today, investor, literally has a real estate business. Ladies and gentlemen, when you're doing things for purposes of yielding profit, it's a business. So we get to this point of, okay, the profit, it's a business, but the business isn't being done properly. Why? Because the house is bought in that person's name. They weren't able to get the company, or they didn't put the company on the document. They didn't put the company as the owner of the property. But they say that they have a real estate company. They say that they're acquiring properties. They say that they're building a portfolio of real estate. But for some odd reason, the company doesn't hold title to the properties. The company is not the beneficiary of the properties. So in turn, people are doing business in their name. And they're claiming that they're a real estate investor. Clearly you are if you're yielding a profit. Once you turn a profit, it's called a made of money. And when you make some money, it's an investment, it's a profit. That's how we look at it at the vault. So when we talk about only doing business in your name, downsides, people say, oh, well, the business, I'm acquiring the properties. But let's tell you what the investor told us a pain point for them earlier was. A pain point for them was the fact that they were doing all the business in their name. Because they were doing business in their name and they weren't doing the business in the LLC or particularly a business in general, the actual entity that's separate from you, what happens is this person is running into the debt to income ratio. The debt to income ratio on a personal level for funding for everything. So this investor is being penalized by the system because the system is entrepreneur and capitalism. So we get to this point where a person is running to a pain point. A pain point is lending. Appreciate Nashville for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate Nashville for tuning in live, listening to replay. The pain point is that they were hitting a debt to income ratio. That deals with lending, ladies and gentlemen. The downside of doing business, only doing business in your name, downsides, is it inhibits lending. It doesn't reward your hard work for completing a transaction, successfully acquiring an asset, and actually having and holding that asset in the proper position. It doesn't reward that. What it penalizes is ignorance. It penalizes lack of action. Because so many entrepreneurs read, oh, I got to get into real estate. I got to get into real estate. They get into real estate, they acquire it in their own name, but they're not doing it in a position of where a business owns the property. Where, we'll say it again, where a business owns the property, not you. We're not going to talk about having a personally guarantee today. That's not what we're here to talk about. What we're here to talk about is only doing business in your name. Downsides. The downside of it being done is that it inhibits lending, ladies and gentlemen. It inhibits lending. See, we're going to give you a conversation today so you can hear what the public thinks. The people that have read over 5 and 10 and 20 and 30 in books. They went to all the seminars, or they're going to all the seminars. We're not going to name names. We actually just talked to someone yesterday. Was talking to with this asset manager. They went to a conference for an asset manager that said that they are managing over a $500 million portfolio, $500 million portfolio. And we talked to the people, the individuals walking into the conference. People, someone has said, this was a waste of my time. This was hype. They didn't give them the mechanics of the business. They gave them the hype. They didn't give them the mechanics of building the real estate business. They gave them the hype. Only doing business in your name, the downside is it's hype. The downside. Not only is it inhibit lending, this is a fact. Do businesses get bigger loans, bigger credit lines than individuals? Well, there's going to be a point when I reach the limit. I'm going to get to the limit at one point. At one point, I'll reach the limit, but I haven't reached the limit right now. But I'm going to reach the limit, so I got to watch all the time. Every time I make an investment in my own name, I have to watch how I acquire the debt. I have to go look at my debt to income ratio. Okay, well, let's go and talk about it from the business perspective. Because that's only doing business in your name. Downside. The downside is it inhibits lending. The next one is the name is a liability. Only doing business in your name, the downside is it's a liability. Why? Because you can be sued now for that asset because it's in what? Your name. But oh no, Trust Christian, don't tell me it's literally hold on. You think that we don't live in a society, whether you're in most Western countries, where you can actually sue? This is why the mentors had trustee training, because they were talking about you can get sued out of assets. But oh no, Trust Christian, I'm just kind of kicking back. I'm not going to get in a car accident with anybody because I'm still driving. I'm not going to get in a car accident. I'm not going to get sued randomly by anybody. No one really knows that I only have a few properties in my name. No one really knows that. No one thinks that I'm a big shot. I'm driving a regular car. I still drive a Toyota. I'm not driving a Ferrari. I'm not showing off that I have 3 properties, 2 properties, 4 properties, 5 properties in my name. I'm not going to show that I have a portfolio bigger than that because it's in my name. I mean, someone can Google this information. Someone can hire a private investigator to see what assets are in my name in America. People can do that for less than $300. They can go hire a private investigator if you give them enough information and say, we need to know about this person. Only doing business in your name. Downsides. So, liability. Assets are in your name. Assets in your name. They're a liability. I can be sued out of assets. That's how it works. Okay, that's how that works. You can be sued. Not only can you be sued, remember, it inhibits lending. So we got a few downsides that, one, when you're dealing in certain environments, and we're not going to harbor on real estate, we're sharing a story because we know many entrepreneurs, investors that have their hands on real estate and they're not talking about it this way. So we're going to talk about it. So, but oh no, they told me to get into real estate, and 70% and 80% of the wealth is held in real estate. So let's talk about it. Well, let's just say 50. 50% of the wealth is held in real estate. It's gotta be the wealthy people who hold real estate. Oh, but you have every property in your name. You have one property in your name. You have two properties in your name. You have three properties in your name. Specifically ones that are intended for cash flow. Okay. So specifically for cash flow. Not only does it inhibit lending, it allows people to be sued out of that asset. It freezes. You can get it frozen. It's an asset. Subpoenaed. Oh, I haven't heard of that word before. Trust Christian, it's never happened. I've never been sued before. So, do you think people that have their wealth in real estate don't get sued? We're sitting in front of people that don't have competent attorneys. But I wanted to go to my Uncle Larry. He got his degree from the no-name college. I didn't want to go get the big name that can represent me in any state, that can represent the company in any state. Okay. Only doing business in your name, the downside is not having company lawyers. Lawyers that are contracted with the company, that are on retainer with the company. Oh man, how much is that going to cost me? When you need them, they're around. Otherwise, they're delayed fees. What do you need them now for? What do you need to pay for anything now with a lawyer when you don't need them? But you do need them because you need to know them. You got to know that you got to have competence. The downsides of doing business in your name is you're going to get locked out of information because you're not around the right people. The lawyers that deal with companies, they just deal with companies traditionally. The ones that deal with individuals may not deal with the ones that deal with companies. You got to find and surround yourself around a whole new lawyer set. Oh man, Christian, Trust Christian, it's so hard to find these different type of lawyers. Are these the private lawyers? Possibly, but you won't know if you don't step out your comfort zone. If you don't go find specific business litigation lawyers, they are available. They advertise themselves. Business litigation attorneys. They can defend a company in court. That's what a private one looks like. Oh, but the individual one, he may not do business litigation. He may do personal defense. Only doing business in your name. I got everything in my name. I could be sued. I gotta, what else we gotta deal? We gotta deal with, look, there's gonna be lending inhibitions on it. So this is the way this individual we sat in front of earlier today said, well, the way I'm gonna get around the lending limit is I could JV a deal. You hear this? Do you hear this conversation, trustees? Do you hear? See, when you start thinking like this, that's how you know you're lost. You're done. Well, I'm gonna go find somebody A, that's not in trust, B, that's not in business. Why? Because I'm gonna go find somebody and I'm gonna just make them sign the deal. And then they could be the front man, but I'm the capital source. So I'm gonna pay somebody else so I don't have to deal with my personal debt to income ratio. I'll use my wife. I'll use my fiance. I'll use my best friend that I want to go into business with who never started a business. But they're going to, be the new front man for the debt to income ratio clock. Inhibition on personal credit. I'm going to be the front man on them. I'm going to give them the money. They could go do it. This is the logic of people that are not properly structured in business. So what do? They go find somebody that is a liability. Why? Because they're not in business. What do we want to call them? The CMO? They're not the money man. They're not the money woman. They're not the chief money officer. They're the CEO of the company now? What are they? The chief operating officer on paper? They're just saying that they got a property, but they didn't put up the money, right? Isn't that how real estate works in the first place? Yes, but when you're doing it in a proper capacity, companies are willing to give the companies. Banks are willing to give the companies. Appreciate Mississippi for tuning in live, tuning in the replay. Always appreciate Mississippi for tuning in live, listening to replay. Feel free to type into the chat where you listen live, where you listen to replay from. Always appreciate connecting with you all. That's the way we see you all. So feel free to type into the chat, listen to live, listen to replay. Only doing business in your name, the downside. So we got inhibitations that people want to get around by doing what? Finding somebody else to do the same thing that they just did. So there's a perpetual cycle of limits, of downsides. Now they're the liability on the company. If somebody sues them, well, both of you guys are on the company, but they're the name that what? They went and bought the property to them because you gave them the money from you or the company. There's downsides. How do we get around these things? We'll talk about that in another episode. The downsides. Not doing business to business, not building business credit. Now it's all about you, the individual. What do people say? Oh, I just got the property. You think we don't hear this, ladies and gentlemen? Oh, I just got the property. You just got the property in the wrong position. This doesn't need to be construed with legal advice, not because we're talking about things that in a chamber of commerce, I mean, you know that the business is supposed to own the property. Why? Because the owners of it can be sued out of it. Well, do you own the property or the company does? What property? What's the downsides of doing trading in my own name? Because Trust Christian, every time I go to the bank, when I go to these brokerage companies, they asking me a lot of questions. I didn't even fill out the application for the company. What I did was, look, y'all ready for how it hears? Y'all ready for how it hears, trustees? This is how you hear it. Well, Trust Christian, look, I ain't got the company open yet. I'm gonna take some money out of my personal funds, out of my retirement fund, and I'm gonna start trading. So I'm gonna go open up the trade account in my name. I'm gonna make some money, and then, when I take the money out, I'm gonna put it in the LLC. I'm gonna put it in a corporation. That's what I'm gonna do. Because then the company could start trading. Or some people say, well, when I went to the brokerage company, I told them I was going to use an LLC. They told me I had to open up with, a certain amount of money because then that means I'm a professional investor because it's a company trading now, not just me. You see the difference in how you get treated though? But are you doing it the right way? Is it a downside? They're doing it in your name? Well, that's why I wasn't going to pull the money out because I was planning on making a lot of money in the trade. So I was going to pull it down at one point. But when I pull it down, people say pretty much getting a disbursement, receiving money. How are they going to receive the money? Oh, well, I was going, I wasn't going to pull it down to my name. I was going to look to be in trust at that point. I was looking to be an LLC at that point. That's how I was looking to do it. Oh, that's how you were looking to do it. Okay. Why not just go give the company the money and make it give you a promissory note? And then the company does what it's supposed to do. Well, Trust Christian, I ain't got all that money to open it up. Some of these companies, not all the companies, some of these companies, though, they're requiring you put up a minimum, when you open up, the brokerage account. Okay. So you want to do things your way. See, we know the way that the things are done on the public side when you're in those environments. Well, how is it supposed to be done? In business, business is business, personal is personal. Only doing business in your name, the downside, we know you can be sued. We know that, it deals with capital limits, capital lending limitations. So now we got to get crafty on how we deal with it. When it comes to even trading, how's the money, being dispersed? Who's it being dispersed to? Cause look, Trust Christian, I'm gonna just go ahead and tell you, Trust Christian, this how it is. Look, the company it is making money, cause when the company, when people pay the rents to the company, they pay it to the company, but I still own the property. Hold on, let's say it again. The company it receives the money. The company receives the money from the rents, from the properties, from the profits, from the property that's being held that I purchased in my name, because the mortgage is in my name, because the title's in my name. Okay, so the title's in your name, the mortgage is in your name. Sounds like yours. Right, but the money, the profits though, they go into the company, and then the company is paying all the bills, expenses, things of that nature. Oh, okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you can go talk to an accountant. Ask them, is that the proper way to do it? We know it's not. Well, you had to purchase the property in your name. What happened? You couldn't add a cosigner? Didn't they ask you if you could be a cosigner in some cases for the company? Right, because that's when the company was doing business. But people, they don't feel comfortable PG in the company, so they just gonna take it out on their own. Once they take it out on their own, the property, ladies and gentlemen, we don't need to say real estate. It's not just real estate. It's property. Period. That's where the laws are now, where we see it's real estate property, and then we see property law. Because property law is different from real estate law. They're not completely the same. Real estate law is unto itself. It's traditionally more public. Property law deals with various forms of property, period. Things that are classified as property. It's more general, whereas real estate is a lot more specific. So when we talk about owning the property, holding the property, receiving profits from profit or asset appreciation, it seems like the businesses have won. They won in lending capabilities. They won in being able to stall off lawsuits. I mean, do you know how many people are suing companies every single day? You think they're not suing your favorite company? You think people aren't suing your favorite company? They're suing your favorite company. They're suing the country that you live in, and the company and the country are still going on because they understand how to even deal. Look, this is how business operates, ladies and gentlemen. People can be in bankruptcy, still owe people money, and operate. Companies can be in bankruptcy, still operate, and the owners of the company, quote unquote, are driving around in company cars. The owners of the company are flying around on company planes. So we're not going to tell you about the private side, how that's looking. We're going to tell you about how the public side looks. Let's just look at your public servants in the government. Do they fly around on Air Force One for free? Yes. Is the country in bankruptcy? Did you see the debt clock? Do they have more money? Do they have more money in than out? The country says they're in a negative. Trillions. The country is a company because they're operating in the monetary system of finance. So they're saying it can operate in a bankruptcy. Okay. Only doing business in your name. You know that there's different forms of bankruptcy. There's company bankruptcies and there's personal bankruptcies. Those are even different. Only doing business in your name downside is businesses traditionally have a lot better opportunity to operate in bankruptcy where the owner is riding around in a company car. The owners are flying around on company jets. The owners don't even pay for their clothes because they have company uniforms. They have charge cards. They have company cars. That actually doesn't even mean that the owners don't get salaries just because they're in a bankruptcy. It doesn't mean that. When we go look at the banks recently, when they went through their whole quote unquote meltdown, remember, it was a financial crisis that led to a housing crisis. It was a financial crisis that led to a housing crisis, right? It was a financial crisis because the banks lending out money, blah, 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 in a bad way. Then we get to, the housing. But let's just start where it started. The what? Banks. So, the government has this way of talking to people. And they went to the banks and they said, we need to have you guys come in because we want to know what the CEOs, these board members, received in income. Oh, well, we pulled in every major bank, top 5 banks. Oh, we pulled them in. We asked them, did you get a bonus? They said they got a bonus. We asked them, was it over 7 figures? Yes. Was it 8 figures? Yes. Was it possible 9 figures? They're not at liberty to talk about that. Oh, okay, but for what we know, you at least got an 8-figure bonus in the financial crisis. You got an 8-figure bonus in the financial crisis, correct? I'm I'm not in control of that. Okay, but you did, correct? I am not in control of that. Okay, who's in control of that? The board of the company that was going through a financial crisis. Okay, only doing business in their name, they would have been wiped out. Okay, but they're just board members getting 7-figure, 8-figure bonuses in the financial crisis. Okay, how would that look personally if you're only doing business in your name? Downsides. Downside is, we saw what the downsides are. How if the company is in your name and it's going under, you're making a profit? The owners, did you receive any money? Well, the company did. See, we talked about how people say, well, I didn't receive any money, the company did. Okay, the business did. Okay, so you see the benefits of the company being the business and primary producer of income, not you. But so many people throughout the years, even right now to this day, they come through trusteeship, bam, they just don't get the assets out of their name. Some people will say, oh, well, Trust Christian, what do you mean? What do you mean? Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've sat on the phone with lawyers and their clients, and their lawyer tells them, well, look, just to let you know, if you take all of your assets out of your name, you may, we'll use that word may, never be able to get them back in your name. Now, that's not all cases. You all aware of that. But lawyer, here's what lawyer says. You may not be able to get them all back, and you may not want that. Well, at that point, are you listening to the client? What does the client want? Because we understand the downsides of not having it in your name. Oh, okay. So there is some pros and there are some cons. There are some, pluses and there's some downsides. We see this over and over, time and time again, where so many people, they just delay this one thing. This is it. This is going private. Oh, Trust Christian, I'm trying to go private. How do you go private and you're doing business only in your name? Your primary way still. You didn't go private if it's still your primary way. That's the facts. Trusteeship or not. If it's in your name, asset-wise, you didn't go private. It was a quick ha-ha. I got the information. That's what that was. That was a quick ha-ha. You weren't too costly. Going private didn't cost enough. That's all it means. It didn't cost enough. What is the purpose of coming into an environment and saying, I own nothing, control everything, but I'm only doing business in my name as a primary way? I'll get around. It's a process. It's a journey, Trust Christian. It's a process. Trust Christian in the vault. Listeners, it's a process. Oh, it is. When you acquired the property, wasn't that a process? Right. But because you didn't have the confidence comes from the competence. You have to have the competence. You have to have credible mentors. I said, this is what we said to this person that we sat in front of, especially for the real estate. You don't have good people around you. Because if you had good people around you, they will let you know. Especially a real estate mentor. Because a real estate mentor is going to tell you, do it in a real estate company, not in your own name. But why do people continue doing it? Because of their lack of competence. Because you're around too many people that got a job. That's going to tell you the wrong way to do it. And if not, you're still around the wrong people. Period. The right people say, do business with the business. So the company can build credit and you can stop using yourself as a PG. As a personal guarantor. But the mentor didn't tell me that, but they got all these fancy ways for me to make all this money and all this stuff. They got the website, they got the newsletters daily, they're updating me on all these different things in real estate, but I'm still not doing business in the proper capacity through the real estate company that I said that I'm doing really, but the checks are going there. But I still got the company property in my name. Hold on. The company property is in your name. Hold on. It's company property, but it's in your name. So this is what we say. Well, you're talking to the trust Christian in the vault. Own nothing, control everything. You got to have a contract between you and the company. The company has to have a contract at least stating that you're doing this. This is what you got to talk to your attorney about. You got to let them know. Look, I need something in place that says this is what's really going on. Do you have anything for the record that this is what's going on other than you trying to finesse the bank accounts? Oh, you're not finessing the bank. We can't use those type of terms. We're talking in the public. You're not doing business properly. Period. So we had to talk about it today. Because they want to say, oh, Trust Christian, I got the real estate company is receiving the profits. This is what they say. Are you saying this? It's the one that's receiving the money, but I got my name on the title on the county record. Oh, okay. Okay. You didn't have a contract either with the company either. Hold on. What position are you in with the company? Are you the owner? Because it's Trust Christian owned not to control everything. The vault. Trust Christian owned not to control everything. Do you own the property? Do you own the company? Are you a manager? Are you a member? Remember, in bankruptcy, and the bank said, look, the bank said we were in a financial crisis, but the board decided that we get a eight-figure bonus. Okay. And there's nothing that the gov can do about it. Who can you give that money back? Well, the board decided that, and I don't think I'm probably going to give the money back either. There's a high probability, unless you're taking it, we're not giving. Okay. So they don't own the company. Remember, they're sitting in the right position. They do have a lot of people that work for the company, but do you work for the real estate company? It's just, do you know the position you are in with the company? Not just real estate, ladies and gentlemen, property. Do you know what position you're in? Ladies and gentlemen, we talk to these conversations all the time. People come through, they have property in their own name, and they want to get rid of it. They want to get rid of liabilities, the downsides. The downsides obviously outweigh sometimes the plus side, especially in your own name. Obviously entities are made for suit, um, and so just you can find some really good lawyers in the business environment. Which go beyond personal situations, especially when you're talking to people in real estate. And we were talking to this investor earlier, and we let him know that you really block yourself out of relationships actually, because there are people that are just not going to do business with you. Like we tell trustees, do business with trustees. So people that are not doing business in a proper capacity with property, whether it's real estate or not, people are not going to do business with that individual. And people say, "Oh, is there no way I've done business with people?" Ladies and gentlemen, we're being very direct that people in our environment, whether it's in a private, people in trust will buy you out, or you're going to be in trust. Period. And it should be the same exact way in the public for LLCs or C corps. People in business do business with people in business, because you're not presenting things as liabilities. You're presenting what we could. When you get to certain incomes and monetary levels, they don't want to see money in your name. So why start out that way? The people that have money don't want to see you have money in your name, because they understand that if you're still doing it that way, it's almost like you're fudging tax. You're dealing with taxes and stuff personally, and you're just a liability in general. You're thinking about a personal tax liability. People understand that taxes are a business expense. These are business expenses, ladies and gentlemen. They're on the forms. So when we talk about Oh, it doesn't matter. The relationship's not going to block me out of a relationship. We had to tell us semester earlier. We can't allow you to talk to people in our network that are private mentors or trustees or investors in real estate. Why? Because you're not doing business the proper way. You're not doing business with the company. You're doing business with your name. So when you're dealing with other real estate investors, they're going to look at you and say, well, they already know your liability and income limit. I mean, debt to income ratio limit. And they're going to know that you're a liability because you're holding property in your name. And that's the reality that are you willing to face missing out on relationships because of the lack of competence, one, and two, the lack of confidence to implement what you read in all these real estate books. Oh, I read this book on real estate. Oh, I went to this real estate seminar. I know I'm supposed to be doing everything in a business. I know I'm supposed to have a competent lawyer. I know I'm supposed to have a competent accountant. I know I'm supposed to be doing all these things in business, but I'm still piecemealing it together. So it shows you got to surround yourself by the right people. You got to surround yourself around people that are doing the business properly, and they're going to tell you to do the business properly so you can grow the business. That's how it works. That's why you're listening to the vault. So you can get your business, so we can have these conversations, because people in trust deal with people in trust. People in business deal with people in business. These are business conversations. They're not personal conversations. But so many people are doing business in their personal name, and they don't expect to have backlash in the business community, where the business community says, well, we can't give you proper lending because you're not doing business properly. Oh, George Christian, how hard is it going to be for me to change title of property? It's as simple as you finding a lawyer and you actually saying, hey, can you help me with a title transfer? Or you going to a title company. These are real things. These are not even expensive things. These things will cost you less than $1,000. It's called cost you less than $1,000 on the low, high end in bad states or states that aren't quality, and in the upper end when you're talking about your major cities, when you're talking about lawyers that are going to really help you out. And we're talking about finding this is where the mentors tell you, we're going to go ahead and tell you got to find a lawyer you can't afford. When you're thinking about lawyers, if you're thinking about the local people, you got to think about the lawyer you can't afford. The company can do business in a bankruptcy. The company can do delayed fees. Banks may not want to do delayed fees on an individual basis. Excuse me. Lawyers may not want to do delayed fees on an individual basis. But with a business that they know has a viable situation going on, and they know that there's a cash flow, they're looking at it like you as an investor. Hey, well, if I help this company out, I should get paid, right? Right. They know it's a company. They can see the history on it. Cash flow. Business litigation lawyers. Competence. Having the competence to have the confidence to execute. No, trust Christian in the vault. I gotta find all these people. How am I gonna do all that? I gotta do all these different things in business already. Where am I gonna find it? Business is a team sport. You got to allocate time for business team building and business growth, business protection, many different areas of business. So let's just not say, oh, we always have to be the creative in the business. We don't. We have to be who you are. If you're the founder, if you're the CEO of the company, you got to act like it. That means we know a lot of the moving parts. We just may not do them all. Senior manager. Appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate everybody that tunes in live, listening to replay. Feel free to hit the like, hit the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed. So hit the like button. Always appreciate all the people that hit the like button. As well, everybody that types into the chat where they're listening live or listening to replay from, feel free to do so. Always appreciate Nashville, Mississippi, for tuning in live, listening, and replay as well. Everybody tuning in live, listening, replay. We know we do the pop-up episodes outside of the Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time episodes as well. So feel free to reach out, Christian at trustchristian.com for the next workshop. Feel free to reach out, Christian at trustchristian.com. So once again, that's Christian at trustchristian.com. Feel free to reach out. Look forward to hearing from you all. Peace.